Hey all, Carpetbagger here, coming to you live from the south, more specifically Louisville, Kentucky, and even more specifically than that, I'm at Cave Hill Cemetery. And I didn't come here just to pay respects to Kentucky's Jim Morrison, Colonel Harlan Sanders. There's also some other magnificent graves, magnificent people buried in this cemetery right alongside the good old Colonel here. Follow me. Now here's the grave of another local connected to the food industry, Harry Leon Collins. He worked for the Frito-Lay company. Interestingly enough, he was their official on-staff magician, which is odd that such a position exists, but I love that there's an official Frito magician. Looks like some people have left some pennies for him there in this magician's trunk. And look at this, there's some children releasing butterflies, and you can actually even see it's a mason jar right there with a butterfly flying right out of it. It's really neat. This grave right here, statue of a dog. Just looking at the grave, kind of sad. I guess this is just showing the dedication a dog can have to its owner. It's a very interesting piece of art on this grave. On this grave we have Jesus, wide open arms. These children are running towards him. And also, never seen this before, this grave you can actually turn the page. It's pretty amazing. It's her last journal entry. The cemetery really has some of the most spectacular and beautiful graves I've ever seen. And over here, we have an actual Sphinx on a grave. And up the stairs is Kentucky's other favorite son, Muhammad Ali. And here's probably the most amazing gravesite I have ever seen. Up here we have Jesus holding these strings. This little girl swinging in his arms. Now here, right outside of Cave Hill Cemetery, right outside the grandeur that is Cave Hill Cemetery, is something quite the contrary. We have Eastern Cemetery here in Louisville. The count is there is 16,000 graves, but there is 130,000 bodies buried in this graveyard. Now, that math doesn't quite add up in any sort of positive way. It turns out this is one of the most mismanaged and abused cemeteries in the country. And as you can see, there seems to be very little care put in these graves. The grass is not mowed, and first of all, the reason for that, before we get into the gory details, is there's no one taking care of it. The My understanding of cemeteries is the perpetual care means that enough money is placed in a bank account that the interest will always be there to fund the maintenance of graves. And that money ran out through shenanigans and poor operations, and so now there is left no one to maintain this cemetery. But back to the bodies. This graveyard became famous for the reuse of graves. They would bury, there would be old graves, and then they would just bury another body on top of it. They would pack them in like sardines, and then the local college apparently would use this to bury cadavers as well. And instead of like giving them a proper burial like they're supposed to, they would just dump them in mass graves. And yeah, all this is a little troubling. I admit, apparently there were stories of them finding human body parts just like wrapped in fast food bags and things like that in the cemetery. So yeah, not quite Cave Hill. It's sad. All these people buried here deserve much more respect than that. So that is a story of two cemeteries here in Louisville, Kentucky. The grandeur and opulence of Cave Hill Cemetery and the sad disrepair of Eastern Cemetery. Appreciate you guys watching. If you'd like to see other places I've been, including other cemeteries, please check the link in the description. I'll show you an interactive map, show you all the places I've been and all the places that I haven't been. You can make suggestions on where I should go. Also a t-shirt shop and a Patreon page in the description. But for now, this one's in the bag.